Welcome to the Willfull Thinking Podcast, where I, Will Coleman, have real conversations with the people shaping our community. Each episode will bring unfiltered talks with local business owners, mentors, community leaders, and friends who inspire, challenge, and make things happen. We hope you enjoy this production of the Willfull Thinking Podcast. This episode of the Willfull Thinking Podcast hosts my friend Stacy Cronican. She is the owner of Rumble Boxing, my personal gym in Rockland, California. She talks all about her journey into being an owner in the fitness industry, also experiences from her previous role as an insurance agent. She's a wife, she's a mom, she's just a badass lady with a cool story to tell, and I'm so thankful that you're here to listen to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Willfull Thinking fans, please enjoy this episode of the Willfull Thinking Podcast with Stacy Cronican. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Willfull Thinking. Willfull Thinking is brought to you by our friends at Sierra Hills Roofing. If you live in Sacramento, Placer, El Dorado, or any neighboring counties in Northern California, and you need help with your roof, please, I implore you, call Sierra Hills Roofing.
Ready?
I think so.
Good. Yeah, don't be nervous. So, she's going to start recording this before we even realize it. And then I've got an intro and an outro already recorded. So, the way that some of these podcasts work that I really like is they just kind of guide you into a conversation that's already ongoing.
Okay.
And then the guy's like, oh, yeah, welcome to... Mine's the Willfull Thinking Podcast.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Yeah. So we have to trademark that.
Yeah. Don't let anyone else steal it.
Yeah. Ben was pretty adamant about that, actually. So he said,
he's already working on it.
Okay. So what we researched is we found that Willfull Thinking is a published article by some gal from the early 2000s. Otherwise, it doesn't exist anywhere else. So I was like, hey, is there going to be any conflict that there's an article named Willfull Thinking from 2004 or whatever? And he's like, I don't think there's that, but you definitely want to get the copyright for it, because if you don't do that, then let's say tens of people see this, which thank you. You're going to at least tens of people are going to see this, Stacy. So
now it's going to double.
Bring your A game for sure. But no, he said you got to get the copyright. So that's what she's going to be doing out there while we do this.
Sounds perfect.
Hey, did you hit start? Nice. Well, welcome to the Willfull Thinking Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, Stacy Cronican, everyone.
Yep, it's nice to meet everyone. I'm excited to be here and kind of learn what the next steps are going to be.
Yeah. So I was super excited to do this with you because you are part of one of my favorite activities to do kind of in my spare time, which admittedly I don't have as much of right now as I'd really like. But you are the owner of Rumble Boxing here in Rockland, California. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I know. And I am so thankful that the small amount of spare time that you have, you spend it with us. That makes us feel super good.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I love that. It has been one of the biggest honors that I've ever had is owning this. And I never thought that was going to come out of this. So I love to hear when people tell me how it's impacted their life or tell me that they actually enjoy going to the gym, because let's face it, who enjoys going to the gym?
Well, Stacey, I won't sit here and lie to you. It sucks. It's like, I think you and I texted about it very early on. You're like, how's it going? I was like, I feel like I'm going to die for 45 consecutive minutes, but then I feel fantastic the rest of the day and usually most of the next. But it's like, there is that phenomenon and that mindset that you kind of have to work through when you're, especially me, I haven't been an exercisist my whole life. I was a golfer. Actually, I was a pretty high level golfer at one point. But I mean, golf's one of those things you can do while drinking beer or, Mountain Dew or eating hot dogs. It's like you don't necessarily have to be at peak physical shape to be a decent golfer. Boxing is the opposite. You're not going to be eating many hot dogs while you're boxing.
No.
And I think there is a shift in mindset of hey, this is going to feel really uncomfortable for a minute or longer while you're fighting for your breath or really pushing yourself to whatever level you want to get to that day. But the reward is pretty cool, and like anything, it's not immediate. It's not. I had lost like 25 pounds at one point
Um,
by going, and then life just gets right back in the way. And there's some habits that I should probably be better about breaking than I am, of like eating and drinking for that matter. But that's it. You get out of it what you put into it. And even if I go 6 days a week and really give it my all, if I'm not willing to change the other part, you're not going to get everything out of it that you can. So
Absolutely.
what is it that you see and hear the most from clients where it's like, hey, I've hit this roadblock, or like, how do I know that I'm making the right decision by investing this time and energy and money into myself and not seeing the results maybe as quickly as I want? Like, this is a fitness industry that's been around forever. That has to be one of the most common objectives or objections that you would hear. What's your strategy there for dealing with folks that maybe have a difficult mindset approach to wanting to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think finding a workout routine that you love, that's one of the first things that you should try to identify. What do I feel good about going to? And then the other thing is, once you're there and you aren't seeing the results that you're looking for and you're putting the time and the energy into it, you look back at yourself and you say, okay, what it comes down to is it doesn't matter how good your workout routine is, you
Mm-hmm.
can't work off a bad diet.
Yep, totally.
So that those lifestyle changes, I think, go hand in hand with wanting to feel good. Because like right after you walk out of the class, you're exactly right. You come out and you're like, wow, I feel good. I feel energized.
Yep.
And to maintain that, it's about making some better decisions along the way so that you start to see those results increase exponentially.
Yeah. And really pay off, right?
Yeah.
Move your mic just a little closer to you,
Okay.
and
Like
then
that.
twist it that way. Just a little. There you.
But then you're going to
No,
hear
no,
me better.
that's exactly what we want.
Perfect.
So I know that Rumble's got an app associated with it. Part of that app is there is a diet portion of the program, or I guess the whole, what you get out of being a Rumble member.
Yeah.
Do you see your specific location maybe trying to maximize that a little bit more, or is that a part of this journey that you want to maybe focus more on, or are you pretty happy with the resources that you get by being a member, and then you know the diet is there for you if you want to look at it? If not, we're always going to give you the physical aspect of it. The diet's more so on, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. 100%. I think initially our focus has been on how do we really just kind of expose boxing for fitness?
Yeah.
Because that in itself has been our first challenge,
Okay.
or at least the first thing to try to get people in the door. Because most people know I need to work out, I need to have a good diet. But what they don't know is that you could use boxing as one of your boxing
Yeah,
or
for
as one
sure.
of your workout strategies. So, and it's kind of funny because in big metro areas, boxing for fitness is huge. It doesn't
Okay.
matter if you're male, female, young, old, teen, that's what you do.
Yeah.
And because you get a great workout, but you're not really going to go in the ring, and we don't want to spar, or
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to get punched in the
yeah. Of
face.
course.
So it's just kind of that's been where all of my energy has gone to, is just kind of trying to get the word out that, hey, this might be a good avenue that you haven't done in the past. Um, because Rockland, we are not a big metro city. We are
No,
a
but we
small
still have the
town.
decent population, right? And
Yeah.
you're in a perfect location to kind of attract people outside of Rockland. I don't live in Rockland, right?
Yeah.
I drive down from Auburn
Yeah.
to do it, but it's still only 15 minutes door to door for me because it's so convenient right there off of Sierra College Boulevard. So,
Yeah.
um,
And it's interesting too because, sometimes you do a workout routine and you think, okay, I feel like all I did was work my legs, or all I did was
mm,
work my arms, or I didn't build any muscle. What I love about boxing and why I was attracted to it is it's full body.
you definitely don't leave one of those classes feeling like you only worked one specific part of your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because initially, naive me, before I really started to learn about the sport and the activity, is you think it's just arms. You're just throwing your hands out there and you're going to come out with these big biceps and shoulders and lats. And no, it's really where that power comes from, like golf. Like, that's part of the reason I think you might have been attracted to boxing.
Yeah.
Golf is a lot of hips, a lot of legs.
Power
And
comes from the ground.
yeah, from the ground, very
Yeah.
little arms. So it's kind of fun to see that part too.
Yeah. No doubt. I guess I didn't realize until you just said it to me because I boxed quite a while before I came to Rumble. So
Yeah.
I had done like private boxing gyms where you actually would spar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tough to find someone in my weight class that would be willing to fight. But then once I did, I'd be like, I don't want to fight that guy. Like I'm not as tough as I might look because I'm
Yeah.
big, you know. But then they'd put me up against the smaller guys that are so much faster than me at
Yeah.
everything. Where I'm like, all right, this isn't gonna happen. But it was, you know, great cardio and a great workout. But then.
Yeah.
There was another former gym in Rockland called 9 Round that I think was a little bit similar to Rumble, except there you did not work your full body nearly as much, and it was more boxing centric. Whereas in Rumble, you know, we've got 5 rounds on bags where we're doing actual boxing routines and not working against an opponent, but working against a bag. And then you've got a floor section of the workout where it's an additional 5 rounds where you work with weights, body weight or actual
Yeah.
physical weights, and very little boxing motion going into the floor side. There is still some every once in a while, but it's mostly just strength and conditioning
Yep.
there. Whereas 9 Round was pretty much exclusively boxing.
Yeah, a little
Um,
conditioning, I think. And the difference too is, and I think it's great, that was like more of a circuit
yeah,
training where you kind of go station to station. Um, what I love is I want to feel Will's energy when he's on a bag next
totally.
to me. You know, I can't see you because it's pitch black in there,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I want to feel your energy. I want to be in sync with the trainer. I want
Yep,
them motivating me and they're in my head. I'm thinking exactly what they're thinking.
yep.
And
I like
so
that too.
it's kind of that big come together as a
Yep,
community to push through it because
yep,
we're all dying.
yep. I also I like that there's more space it seems than some of these other places that I've worked out where like, hey, you can fit what 40 people in there at one time.
Yeah.
So some people will be boxing, some people will be doing the strength and conditioning floor exercises, but like there's enough room to get a big community of people in there working out at one time. I mean, 9 round, you could have 9 people working out at one time and that was it.
Yeah.
Because there's only
Yeah.
one person per round. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of upside there. Um, I
And that's
like
what I like too, because I mean, people get busy and in their schedule. They're like, I want to go to class at this time, get my
yes.
workout in. There's always going to be space there.
Totally.
So yeah, we don't want to limit people by not having enough spots for you.
Yeah. I've been pleasantly surprised. Well, this is going to sound awful, so I got to be careful how I say this because pleasantly surprised already is like, you misogynist. There are so many women that do this.
Yeah.
And I mean, where I was at my traditional boxing gym, I think we had like 1 or 2 gals and then the rest were male. Um, has this been a phenomenon that you expected, or is it kind of a new wave of, like you were saying, like, hey, boxing is a pretty cool option for you to consider for your fitness, and more women are now, you know, kind of taking that on than maybe I realized would have otherwise.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one of our goals is trying to make it accessible to any and everyone.
Yeah,
So traditionally, you're right, you know, your big brother boxes and that's it. And you don't want to pick a fight with him. But so now we make it accessible of, hey, if you haven't boxed before, you have no experience, you can come in, we'll take you through the process.
yeah,
It's a journey like anything. You know, as soon as you start something new, no one's going to be good at it up front. Like those guys in those boxing gyms, they've been boxing since they were 4 years old in
totally.
some cases. So it's a journey. You start at the beginning. You start to learn the technique and the form and the punches and how to hit the bag, how to strike it, how to start incorporating your lower body and your core, and then you start hitting the bag harder. You start
Mm-hmm.
feeling more confident. You start trying new combos and going outside your comfort zone. But it is truly one of those things where you don't have any experience. Your coach is going to guide you through it. They're going to help you every step of the way, and the bag doesn't hit back.
Yeah, for sure. Thankfully.
Yeah.
So we've got some pretty great coaches there. I commend you on however you found those people.
Thank you.
To me, owning a newer business, hiring people has proven to be one of the most difficult things to do. Hiring the
Yes.
right people, and we've had, you know, gosh, maybe 6 trainers now, 7, um, and they're all going to have different styles, and that's the
Mhm.
beauty of it. But all but one specifically, and I won't say who because they're no longer there, but I've felt a cool connection with in our own way, every single coach except
Love
potentially
that.
that one.
Hmm.
And that's got to be so hard to achieve that. So how have you gone about that? Like, how have you found, has Rumble helped you find some of these people? Have you independently had to do that? Like, what's that process been like?
So, I think so. My thing is I was looking for people that came from all different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want someone from one particular background or looked and talked and acted like a specific piece. Like sometimes in some industries, that's what you look for. I was
Yeah.
looking for how do I find a variety of people that can appeal to the masses across the board that are going to bring their own authentic self to it.
Yeah.
And that was some of the guy, what Rumble said to me is go out and find people that know who they are, they're confident in who they are, and have really high energy. Because
Yeah.
if you have that, then we can kind of teach you the rest. So, I have people that came from a very extensive boxing backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
some that came from group fitness, some that came from theater. I mean,
Oh,
you
wow.
name it.
Yeah.
So, it's been really fun to see that with dancers,
Mm-hmm.
all of those unique personalities, I think kind of come together. And if they could find their voice and they care about the customer,
Yeah.
like that is a huge piece. Like, I care if Will's getting what he needs out of
Yeah.
this. And I
Sure.
see you, I'm there with you, I'm going to support you. That's key. And the same thing, because not everyone's a trainer in there. We also have what I call hosts, and those are the people who know
The
your
first
name when
people
you
you see
walk
when you
in.
walk in. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the people that are excited you're here. They expect you to show up. They
Mm-hmm.
want to know why you didn't show up. And same thing, they see you, they care about you, they want to know your story. What are your goals? All of those things, if you can kind of dig that up and support them. Because, sometimes people walk in, you never know what they're going through. They might be having the best day of their life
Yeah.
or the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of our job to like be there to celebrate with them or, give them a pat on the back and let them know it's going to be okay.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I worked in the golf industry for years prior to the roofing industry. And when I was in the golf industry, I worked at like some really high end private courses. I also worked at like our little rinky-dink town golf course where I grew up. And that pro said the best thing to me ever. He's like, "Look, wherever you go in this industry, just realize that you as a golf professional or as an ambassador for golf, your job is to take these people that come in to play golf on that day and give them a 4 hour vacation from whatever else is going on in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that the 4 hours they hear or that they're here, they've gotten everything they want and need out of it. And if you do
Yeah,
that, you can go wherever you want in this industry." Yeah, I
I
thought that
love
was pretty
that.
cool, right? So like, hey, we're maybe with working out, we're not looking for that vacation, but
Yeah,
we do have a goal when we're there, and that's either, hey, I got some steam I need to blow off and hit a bag, or
yeah.
hey, I really just have been feeling crummy and I want to like sweat that out, or like, hey, I just feel great, want to celebrate it, and I've got some energy. Let's go.
Yeah. So it's
So
funny. So we definitely say that. We say, let's take our 45 minutes with them and make it last for the other 23
that's
hours in the
cool.
day.
Yeah.
Because if we can do that, we know we did it right for them. We're
Mm-hmm.
doing it right for them. So, yeah. So that is, I love that he said that to you. And
Yeah.
it's so true because that's how you really make impacts in
Yep.
people's lives. And it keeps them coming back because it's easy to fall out of your workout routine, and that's most of the time how people stop seeing their results.
Sure.
But if they know that you're going to impact them that much for the other hours, they're going to come back, they're going
Totally.
to stay consistent, and they're going to love it more, and the community is going to be stronger, all of those things.
So when you were deciding to do this, maybe you think similarly to me, maybe you don't. Like it took me a long time to make the decision to start this business.
Yeah.
Are you the same? Like, was it something that you knew you'd always wanted to do, just had to figure out the right thing, or was it like, hey, I found this and now I'm going to go for it?
No, not so much. I mean, it was quick, but so I am not a sit back and process very
You
much.
just
When I
go.
decide something,
Yeah.
I'm all in and I go for it. And the decision that I made is I said, I kind of had like a mini midlife crisis, we'll call it. And I started thinking, and, I had owned my own business before,
Okay.
I had done my prior industry for 17 years. And I all of a sudden thought, and I was like, if I died tomorrow, at the end of the day, people would say she was a good mom, good wife, sister. I hope they would say that. But, I have all of those things, and those are, you know, table stakes.
Yeah.
But I said at the end of the day, my legacy would be, wow, she was really good at insurance. And that is a great industry, and
Yeah.
you should be good at it. But I thought, is that the thing that I said? Is this the thing that I'm passionate
Is that the
about?
mark you want to leave on
Is
the,
that
yeah.
exactly? And so, I kind of started thinking about it, and I thought, what am I passionate about? And it's craft cocktails.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. Craft cocktails and fitness.
Okay.
So outside of my, friends and family, those are the things I've always been passionate about.
Yeah.
I love making cocktails. I love serving people. I love hosting people. And then my whole life, I've loved fitness. You name it, I've done it. I've been obsessed with it. And so I thought, I want to do something in one of those two industries.
Nice.
And
We chose the healthier one for sure.
I did. I'm creating better habits.
Yeah.
We don't want too many repeat
too
customers.
much practicing of craft cocktails,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So I ended up choosing that. And then once I chose fitness, I thought, because I've done, every single type of fitness routine
Personally,
you can
for
think of
yourself.
personally.
Yeah.
And I said, what haven't I done? And what is there a hole in Rockland, California,
Sure.
Roseville, Loomis, in this Placer County area? Where's there a hole? What are we missing? And so then I started researching like crazy, what's out there that I haven't tried yet?
Okay.
And what's kind of got that like, cool, a cool brand that follows it that I
Yeah.
think would,
That's
I'm
for
going to
you.
have a sip.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I will too, actually.
Perfect.
This portion brought to you by Kirkland Signature Water. No, I'm just
good
kidding.
water, purified.
Mm-hmm.
So
You guys have the best water at the studio.
it is the best.
Oh my gosh, that thing with the 8 filters or whatever it is.
I don't know. I didn't
It's
know
so
there was
good.
good water versus bad water. I always say there must be like liquid gold in there or something.
Sometimes I think about stopping. Seeing if
you
you're
can stop anytime.
just to get some water in my bottle. I'd be like, why didn't you work out today? I don't know. Let's not talk about it. Let me get some water.
But I got water.
So you were researching what's out there and what can you, yeah.
And I came across a lot of cool brands.
What
and
else
modalities.
did you try leading up to the decision to do Rumble? Like Orange Theory is a popular one, right? I'm sure you had done that before.
Yep.
Did you know about 9 Round?
I knew about 9 Rounds.
Did you try it before?
Yep.
Okay.
I had tried it. I had looked into that. I had tried lots of different yoga concepts.
Okay.
So yoga
what is
sticks
Pilates?
Pilates is great. It's not high impact, so to speak.
Is it mostly the gals?
It is majority women.
Okay.
It's not, anyone can do it, but it's a little more calm. There's not very many spots in it most of the time. And I think it is challenging. It's definitely challenging as you move up, and there's certain moves and certain techniques that you want to get down.
Okay.
But it's a little more slow, controlled movements, smaller muscle groups, things like that. But I had tried it all, and then I was actually looking at Yoga 6, and that's how I stumbled across Rumble, and it had the dark lights and the music, and I was like, what is this? I have to know more. And I ended up, and it wasn't available in California yet. And so that's why I hadn't found it yet, because it was a franchise.
Okay.
And so takes longer to create those franchise contracts and stuff. So as soon as it became available, I signed up, and I was like, we got to bring this.
Nice.
And then we went from there. And I was like, I had never boxed before in the past, but I knew. I flew out to Arizona. I tried it, loved it. And I was like, Rockland needs this because it is so cool. And you just can't help but smile when you're in there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we landed.
So you decide you're going to do it. I got to that point for myself, maybe a little slower than you did, but I still got there. I then immediately took out the yellow legal pad and was like, here are some goals that I want to reach. Did you do the same?
Yep.
So will you share some of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So my goal is, because I want it to be, a household brand where people know and they can go multiple locations. So the goal is to open 3 locations in Placer County.
Okay.
And then I'm hope that long-term goal is to have 500 members in that facility. Because once we have 500 members, you can offer class times every single hour
Yeah.
during the day. We've got tons more trainers, people have more options, bigger community, more social events. And so it just kind of opens it up as to what we can do outside of that.
Okay. What have you found to be like some of the most successful ways to promote your business and the brand?
So historically, the most successful spot to get the highest quality and quantity of leads has been social media.
Okay.
So we spend a lot of time advertising and doing paid ads
Yeah.
on social media.
Yeah.
So that's been the most successful. Now, not every single person that clicks a link when they see it, but it's exposure. And
Sure.
I always say there's consideration in the marketplace. So I want consideration in the marketplace, which means that you're going to have to see me at least 7 times
Okay.
before it piques your interest most of the time. So you might be scrolling through Instagram and you see the ad and you bypass it. And then you go over to Beach Hut Deli and you're like, wait, I've seen that before. That's Rumble. Okay, I see that. And
Mhm.
then you're at, Super Bowl and Will's going, yeah, yesterday my legs are so sore because I went to my class.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, where do you go? Rumble. Oh, I got to try that.
Uh-huh.
So now I've got enough touch points where people have seen. So I think it's huge for consideration in the marketplace, social media, but the most successful one has been word of mouth and referrals.
Sure. Same for
Because,
my business.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes hand in hand. And if you're delivering a good experience and people love it, it's going to move a little bit faster.
Totally.
So it's kind of those two together.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So there have been a couple other Rumbles pop up in Northern California since yours, right?
Yeah.
We've got one in Natomas. Is that right?
So
Elk Grove for sure.
I think Natomas is going to open.
It's
They're
going
not
to open. Okay.
yet. Yeah, they have been trying to open, I think, for about a year now. They're having some problems with the lease, maybe.
Yeah.
But they, I think, are going to open. And then there's been some in the Bay Area.
Or not Elk Grove, yes. Because I was thinking Sean, but that's a different boxing gym entirely, and he lives in Elk Grove, right?
Yep, that's
Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
but
nothing in Elk Grove.
so you're the only one technically right now in this area, but then San Ramon maybe, and
Yeah, San Ramon,
one other in the Bay.
Sunnyvale, Palo Alto.
Okay.
There's a few in the Bay Area, and then quite a few in Southern California.
Okay.
So San Diego, LA, Long Beach, a bunch of them down over in
Yeah.
Southern California. And that's kind of your big metro area. So there's a lot.
Sure.
They already know what Rumble is.
Okay.
Because it's a little more common in that area.
Okay.
But yeah, there has been quite a few pop-ups. But I'm hoping pretty soon we'll be able to open a second one.
That's awesome.
So,
well, more to come on that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully.
All right. Great. Anything else you want to talk about Rumble wise?
No.
Do you
I don't
like
think so.
coaching?
Okay, so that's actually an interesting story. I did not ever intend on coaching.
I've figured.
So that
But
was
you're
never the plan.
extremely good at it. But I figured like
You
when you
have to
start
say
your
that. I'm
business,
standing
no,
here.
no.
And I can box, so you have to say
That's
it.
true. I wouldn't mess with you too. You run circles around me. No, you're great at it. You do have a ton of energy.
Yeah.
But I would have guessed that would not be something you'd see yourself doing from the onset of the company. Just there's a lot of other things that go into running a business,
Yep.
much less just doing the coaching of it. So yeah.
Yeah. So it is kind of a little interesting. So the only reason why I did it is because one morning I showed up for class and there was no trainer.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, what's happening?
The show must go on, right?
So I couldn't figure out how to turn on the mic. So that was funny. I just yelled over the music. And it was a total disaster. And I thought, I better learn how to do this so that if this happens again, I can jump in.
Yeah.
Because it's, all of our trainers have lives. Some of them are in school.
Sure.
Some of them have other jobs. Some of them have families. So I wanted to be able to be an option. I want to be able to do everything in my business. So if something comes up, I know how to clean the toilets.
Yeah.
I know how to coach. Any of those things, I will do it. So I learned how to coach, and I was so terrified to do it. I was
Why?
like, I don't know if I can do this. I have to stand up in front of all these people. I have to motivate them. Like, how am I going to do this? And the more I got up there, and again, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone is so important. And just kind of the whole theme at Rumble, like you're always going to try to get yourself
Yeah.
outside your comfort zone. And so I did, and I do enjoy doing it. But for the reason I enjoy it is I have so much of a better understanding now, the perspective from the members, because I get up there and I get to see and like support them and help them. It has just, I've become much closer to that relationship.
Oh,
And I
totally.
think it's been really, really valuable from that standpoint.
Well, I really enjoy taking your classes, and I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. And
Good.
it's I've come full circle on that, because the first time that I ever took one of the ones you coached, you do something different than the rest of the trainers do it, and that's when you're counting down for the last couple of seconds of the exercise. You start at 2-1 instead of 3-2-1, and I hated that at first,
You're
but
like, I
now
don't have
I
enough
love
time.
it. But, well, that's why. It's because then I found myself like Sean or Tiffany or Fallon, anybody else. It's like 3-2-1. I'm like, I'm quitting on 3, or I'm starting to slow down on
So
3.
yeah. I don't
And
give
she
you a lot
doesn't
of
give
time.
me time to slow
No.
down.
I really don't.
So when I actually thought about it, I was like, oh, I dig that now that now that I realize that I'm actually going the full, however
Yeah.
long that,
The extra second. That's
because
where
you
it
don't give me the
counts.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, so not only are you a business owner, you're a mom and a wife
Yep.
and a sister and all the, daughter. We
Yeah.
can keep going, cousins, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
oh,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I got
the whole
cousins
family tree.
and friends.
Yeah. I've met your sister at least twice, I think both times at the gym. She doesn't live here, but you're an identical twin.
I am.
And that was a really fun mistake to make that
Yeah.
first. I was like, hey, Stacy. And she kind of looked at me like, and then I was
Should
like,
I say hi back?
hey.
or-
And then I saw you walk in and I was like, that's not Stacy.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and
It
I
is.
can't possibly be the only person that's ever made that mistake, because
No.
you do look very similar.
It is.
You are identical
So
twins,
we
for
are.
sure.
Yes.
Yes.
It is so fun.
Yeah.
We were inseparable until after college.
Okay.
So we shared the same room growing up. We went to school together. We traveled. We lived in the same dorm through college.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Arizona.
Ah, the
Mhm.
Wildcats.
Yes, the Wildcats. So, so we were Wildcats, and by the time we graduated college, I think we had never spent more than 3 days apart from each other.
Dang.
And so we were really close. But once we went to college, it was really funny because we look a lot alike, but
Yeah.
everyone knew us as Randy and Stacy. Randy and Stacy, they go together. If you know one, you know the other one,
Yeah.
because we were always together. And so for the first time in college, we didn't have the same classes. So some people they didn't know I had a twin. So all of a sudden, I'd be standing in the line at Starbucks,
Yeah.
and this guy behind me would be like, "Hey, did you get the homework assignment?" And I'd be like, "Huh?
Yeah.
What homework assignment?" "From class." "What class?" And and he'd say, "From our Com 1." I'm like, "I'm not in Com 1." He's like, "Yes, you are." I'm like, "Oh, okay. You think I'm my sister."
Yeah.
So
So it's happened a long time.
oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Have you
happens all
ever
the
messed
time.
with your husbands?
So they have never, at least
So they say.
they've always been able to tell us apart.
Yeah.
So they say. So, and it was, we always knew if someone actually liked us when we were growing up and dating,
Yeah.
because they could always tell the difference.
Okay.
If they couldn't tell us the difference, they were out.
Got it.
No second date.
Uh-huh. Nice. And then you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah, 2 kids.
Yeah.
One of them actually does Rumble all the time. She
Nice.
loves it. The other one, not so much, because she's a little busier. But for my girls, because I'm a very busybody, I'm always doing things just like you and everyone else. But I always want my girls to know you can do it all. Like, you can be a mom, you can work full time, you can open your own business, you can still make homemade dinners, all of those things. So and they think it's fun. And I include them in the businesses. I include them in the celebrations. They always
Yeah.
get excited. I'm like, hey, so our next target is we got to get to 250 members. And then when we do, they're like, yay! And we all like
Nice.
celebrate together. And it's been really fun.
Your kids are a little older than mine, but one of the things that my wife Lauren really wanted me to ask you about is like how you've been able to successfully find that balance. And I would guess, and this is naive of me to guess because I don't know. It has to get a little easier as they get older because there are certain things that
Yeah.
we have to do now for them that they physically can't do for themselves that
Yeah.
they will eventually be able to do for themselves. So that, if you can leave them at home for a couple hours and get some things done, I would imagine that's easier than have to load them all up in a car and drive them around or
Yeah.
whatever. But what's your experience been like with, because this is not your first business you've run.
Yeah.
And your husband, I would imagine, has been pretty busy his whole career as an attorney.
Yeah.
So how did you guys do it? Like, how did you find the balance?
So when they were really little, my mom actually helped me out a lot.
Yeah.
She would watch them, because childcare is really expensive.
Well, you're telling me.
So she would watch them 2 days a week, which
Okay.
was huge for us. And then I did have, she was like she was so amazing. She's since moved away. Otherwise, I'd say steal her.
Yeah.
She would come to our house the other 3 days a week
Nice.
and really help the girls. But with the girls and helping to get them, after school and their homework done and all of that stuff and getting ready for sports, all of the things that come with it. But what I would say is if you're really, really busy and your family is incredibly important to you, it's making the time that you're with them count.
Mm.
And that is the biggest thing because when I'm with them and it's our time together, I'm with them and it's our time together.
Yeah.
Like when we're at dinner and we're eating dinner and I've been working all day and they did their sports and they have to do homework afterwards. Like we are at the dinner table together and I want to know, how did school go? Like tell me about these things, and they want to know about me. And that quality time is really important because if you have 3 hours and you're kind of doing something and they're doing something, but you're in the same room, I mean, it's not the quality time.
Sure.
So I think that's been really key. And then the other important thing is you can't beat yourself up over missing things.
Mm.
Like if you can try to create a schedule and be at the most amount of things that you can, do it. But every once in a while, if you have to miss something, don't beat yourself up over it because they will understand
Yeah.
and you're going to make up for it later on.
Yeah.
So, but then we get in our heads and we just
Oh, yeah.
talk ourselves like we're the worst mom in the world, worst dad in the world.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really important.
Give yourself some grace.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure. Yeah. What sports do they play?
So the older one is a gymnast. So I'm big on you have to do a team sport
Okay.
and a individual sport.
Okay.
And then, hopefully they'll play multiple sports all through high school and stuff. But the main sport is my older one is gymnastics. And then
How old is she?
She's 14.
So freshman or eighth grade?
She's eighth grade.
Eighth grade. Okay.
Yep. So she does gymnastics at a pretty high level. And then
Is that travel? Like you guys have to go all over the place for that?
So it's still in California.
Okay.
But a lot of times it'll be in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Lots of practices and things like that. Big time commitment. But then she does track and field. She's done volleyball, basketball, you name them. She does them all and tries to fit them in. And she loves theater too.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, she does that. And then the younger one, she is tennis and soccer.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's two pretty quintessential solo and team sports there.
So I'm like, you got to learn how to do both because I didn't grow up doing team sports. And there's so much you learn from doing team sports.
For sure.
Is learning how to count on someone. You don't have to always carry the whole load.
Yeah.
All of those things. Learning how to lose as a team, it's so important.
So you went to Del Oro.
Yeah.
Pat's not from this area, right?
No, he's from New Mexico.
Did you meet at Arizona?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, we met at Arizona.
And then moved back here after you both graduated?
Mm-hmm.
Did he go to law school where Ben went to law school?
Yep.
Okay.
McGeorge.
Okay. And now you live in Roseville area?
Yep.
So the girls won't go to Del Oro?
Well, I'm crossing my fingers right now because I just got approval from Roseville to allow her to go to Del Oro. So
Nice.
hopefully I get the letter tomorrow saying she's in, but cross your fingers
Well,
for
that'd be
me.
fantastic. Yeah, I
Yes.
will. We live where we live so that our kids could ultimately go to Del Oro
Love
because
that.
Lauren and both of her brothers did. So we
Yeah.
live a little ways from where I went to high school,
Where's
back in
that?
Virginia.
Oh, yeah, that's too far of a drive.
Yeah, it'd be a long one, but Del Oro, it's a good community of people, as you know, and yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I love how even if your kid doesn't play football, all the parents in Loomis still show up
oh
and
yeah,
watch the football games.
yep,
It's so fun. The kids love seeing the parents there. It's
yep,
just a huge, strong, tight knit community. They do all the same stuff they did when I went there, like the parades and the floats,
yeah.
and it's just such an amazing
It's a
environment.
cool field.
Yeah.
Our son is playing flag football right now. The high school kids put that on for
Mm-hmm.
the small kids, and like high school kids are the coaches and the referees and everything.
So fun.
And flag football is funny. Flag football is basically tag with a ball,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
And
It's the best kind.
our son is very tall for his age and very lean, almost like goofy lean, like string bean lean. And the key to being good at flag football is just you just have to be fast.
Yeah,
And he's
fast.
not fast.
Oh,
So
that's really funny. I was thinking because he was lean, they were like,
no,
wait, I can't, there's nothing to grab.
he's not fast at all. He's got all the other pieces there, but
I
except
love it.
speed. And
That'll
so,
come.
but he's so
That'll
competitive.
come.
He's like, Dad, am I the best player on the team? I'm like, no.
I'm,
But then he
I'm
keeps
sorry
going.
to
He's
say
like,
this. No,
am I
second best player.
And we'll get to fourth, and I'll be like, son, let's just not go any further. You know, like,
You don't want
do
the
you have
answer.
fun? Yeah. Do you
And
enjoy
that's
this?
yeah,
Yeah.
see, and that's the important part. Yeah, it
And
doesn't
I
matter if you're the best.
I get competitive watching, and it's like, what am I getting competitive over? Like that kid is faster at tag than my kid. Like, what
Yeah.
difference does it make? But
Yeah.
we're doing that. We're doing Olivia, our middle, is old enough to do T-ball this year, so we'll do
Oh,
T-ball, and Harvey
fun.
will do coach pitch.
That's
Our
so fun.
youngest is almost 4, so she's still a little too young for everything, but
Yeah.
I think she will.
Gymnastics.
Well, and
Not too
we
long.
did try that actually. And I think actually just out of it was too much time for like it was at the worst time of day for their ages, and we just weren't able to make it work right now. But that would be something I think we might experiment
Yeah.
with again.
It's fun.
She will be in theater for sure.
Oh yeah.
She's the one in the middle of the living room floor watching Disney movies, screaming the song lyrics at the top of her lungs.
I
So
love it.
that will
I
happen.
love it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we're a little ways behind you, but I look forward to
Yeah.
the
I
kids getting
miss
a little.
those days.
Yeah, that's what everybody
I
says. But
really miss those
it
days.
makes me scratch my head and then wonder why. Cause
Yeah.
it's
You're like, is it really that
yeah.
bad?
Is
No.
that when you developed your craft cocktail
Yeah,
hobby?
I got really
Yeah.
good at craft cocktails then.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's funny. So, one of my friends and I, we always joke because it all started. I was a bartender in college.
Okay.
And my friend was a bartender also. So we're always, whenever we get together, we're trying to figure out what do we have and how do we make a craft cocktail out of
Nice.
it.
What's your favorite? What's your go-to?
So my go-to is a old fashioned.
It's my favorite drink that there is. Yeah.
Yeah. Or, I do like a Sazerac. But yeah, it's.
Do you like a Manhattan?
I can't get on board with the Manhattan.
Is it the
don't know
vermouth,
why.
you think?
Yeah, I think it's too sweet.
Okay.
I can't quite get on board with it, but I'm gonna revisit it
Yeah.
because I rarely make them. I can't actually remember the last time I did, but I'm gonna have to get on board
Okay.
because they look so good. They look
Yeah,
perfect.
they look pretty fancy. You know,
Mhm.
you get that martini glass with the little cherry
Yeah.
resting on the stick
Yeah.
across the top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Well, hey, before we go, there are some roofing people that I think have interest in what I'm doing here, and that's obviously the business that I'm in. So, selfishly, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your previous industry.
Yeah,
You're
of
still working
course.
in it
Yes.
to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Um, Insurance is a hot button issue for homeowners, for government officials, for
Mm-hmm.
politicians.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's never been more difficult to do business as an insurer in the state of California, due to many factors. Something that's driven a lot of business to us as roofers is the need to maintain coverage. You get a demand letter from your insurance provider saying, we deem this uninsurable unless you make such and such alteration to your property. What? Well, first let's start with an easy one,
Yeah.
or a short one, probably not as easy to answer. What is the overall state of the insurance industry in California right now? And where do you see it going in the near future with some of the disasters that we've seen happen over the past few years?
Yeah. I feel like this is a very hot topic right now, so I'm glad that you asked.
Yeah.
I think, because I have been in the industry for quite a long
17
time.
years, as it were, right?
Yes, for 17 years. And I think in California, it's so regulated. And I know this because I've been on the carrier side. It's really hard to do what needs to be done from a carrier perspective.
Sure.
So there in California is very different than all of the other states
Mhm.
because they don't have the same type of regulations that we have. And it makes it hard for carriers to be agile or, as things start getting more expensive, if it's more expensive to put a new roof on or, rebuild a house or replace the flooring because there was a water loss,
Mhm.
having them come out and replace that, the costs have just gone up a
Sure.
lot, like
Yeah.
everything
Yep.
in the last few years. So, while all the other states were adjusting for those costs, most carriers didn't adjust over time, so they got far behind
Interesting.
because there's so in the state, the most you can take is 6.9% when you file for rate without um, everyone getting involved. So there's all these regulators that get involved and they push back and you have to open up all your books. And then you have to open up your books, the person that started this, you have to pay for their time
Oh, wow.
for them to view your books. And it just they made it impossible to be able to justify more than 6.9%. And, as all of us have
As an
seen,
annual rate increase, is that?
and sometimes you can't even do it annually.
Oh, okay.
So they make it tricky, and we've seen that costs are going up by more than 6.9%.
No doubt.
So, in some carriers couldn't take that rate every single year as this happened, so they've gotten so far behind. And then you would look at, okay, what's the average, if you're going to a $300,000 house
Mhm.
across every single state, which is going to be more expensive to rebuild? Like which state is going to be higher? California is probably going to be one of the most expensive places to
You'd
rebuild
have
that.
to think.
And then it looks, the Insurance Journal did this research. California is one of the cheapest insurance policies out of all the states because
Wow.
every state, as inflation had been going up, was taking this rate. So this is my long
No, it's
answer
very
to your
interesting.
question. So they got behind.
And is
what's
most of
hard-
that due to regulations by government agencies saying you can't increase by a certain percentage or more
Yes.
each year? Yeah.
And so other states had increased regularly, and then in California, and it's hard if you go to Starbucks today and your coffee is $1.25, and then you go tomorrow and it's $5. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
what happened here? Why is this so expensive? But if you gradually increase over the years, people adjust their expectations, they budget for it, they do all of the things to be able to pay for what's important or what they have to.
Yeah.
So they got really far behind. And what was happening is carriers couldn't take on more risk because they wanted to make sure that if something happened, they would be able to pay all claims.
Of course.
So
These are for-profit
they
businesses.
are for-profit business.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so you started seeing some of those things happen where they were saying, I want to make sure you have a good roof because if something we need to reduce our exposure because for every single dollar they were taking in, and I only know the carrier that I was working
Of
for,
course.
but every single dollar they were taking in, they were paying out $1.07.
So it's costing them more than they were able to write business for. Yeah, it cost them
Exactly.
$1.07 to write $1 worth of
Yes,
business.
so they had to
Yeah.
get really specific on who and what they were insuring because they couldn't charge the appropriate. And you guys are all thinking, well, my insurance went up double, right? Because mine did, everyone's did. So then they started making these shifts and they started doing catch up. So carriers are trying to catch up. So that's why some people are seeing, okay, my insurance has gone up a lot recently, or they won't write me anymore. I have to go to California Fair Plan or something like
Yeah.
that, a
And
last
isn't that
resort
interesting?
policy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we've seen and why they've been particular.
How do we fix it?
So the commissioner did put some new regulations in place. Now, keep in time, it doesn't happen overnight.
Sure.
But what they're going to do is they're now looking at all of the carriers across the state. If you're going to write and have home insurance in California, you can't, cherry pick which homes you're going to have. You can't only have, homes where there are no wildfire. So they're going to say, okay, we're now going to let you, because today with the regulations, you can't charge for reinsurance or you can't charge for the potential catastrophe. So what that means, you're looking at me like, oh my gosh, Stacy, you made this super technical.
No.
What's happening?
That makes sense. Especially potential catastrophe.
Okay.
Like, yeah, you
Yeah. So it used to be we only had catastrophes, every 5 years. And
Well,
then it was every 4 years.
but we haven't had these fires forever, right? This seems to be something that's only really started in the last 20 or so, at least that we've seen the
Correct.
impact.
Yeah.
But earthquakes have always been a thing in California.
Yeah.
Would those be written as separate line items under an umbrella policy, or would you have to have independent earthquake insurance than the rest of your homeowner policy?
Yeah, so earthquake is separate. So
Mm-hmm.
you always get earthquake separate, but wildfire and fire is always covered on your home insurance.
And it might make sense to change that given the trajectory that we've seen things go in the past decade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what they would say is if you had a catastrophe and there was $8 billion of losses, then that next year you could use those losses to determine what the rate should be. But let's say, in 2023, we didn't really have any catastrophes. So now they're going, well, you can't tell me you need to price for catastrophes because you didn't have one. So now with the new regulation, they'll be able to anticipate what's the potential for a future catastrophe, which is what insurance is. And the reinsurance piece is so, like, for example, all the fires going on in Southern California.
Yeah.
A lot of carriers will tap into what's called reinsurance. So if there's a huge catastrophe, and let's say, let's say your cap is $2.5 billion, your reinsurance will cover anything over that. So reinsurance carriers will buy this so that they can continue to insure. And if they do go over, reinsurance will come in. And the cost of that reinsurance is really expensive.
Who are the companies funding that?
So they're huge.
Are they
companies.
private equity companies or?
They're huge. I actually don't know who our reinsurer is, but they're like through Zurich, some of those big carriers. Very highly specialized. But California won't let you use that cost. So let's say, 10% of the cost would go to reinsurance. You couldn't file for that of saying, okay, I need this rate to cover that piece. So fast forward, if carriers are writing in all areas that include wildfire, they can now use those two factors in order to determine what rate is. And what that'll do is that'll help neutralize it a little bit. So, like, for example, if you're in an area that's not high wildfire, you're not compensating as much for somebody that is. And so people get really good at pricing and really find an appropriate premium so that they don't have to be as picky and you don't have to do all these little nuanced things and surveys and photos and tree trimming, all of that stuff. So hopefully.
Is this a multi-year process, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that they know they can do it, now all the actuaries have to go through and create the coding and how it will all work. And it'll probably take, I think, a few years to get that under control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what can we anticipate in the meantime as consumers or customers of insurance providers?
I think, I think right now it's a really hot topic because everyone wants to know, what's going to happen once these fires settle.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen with some of these carriers? Are they, going to want to continue to do business in California? I mean, the big carriers for sure are going to, but, there are hundreds of thousands of carriers that we don't, small
Yeah.
carriers all throughout the state. So, I'm kind of waiting to see what happens and how it settles. And then I think we'll kind of see who's coming out strong on the other side, what
Mm-hmm.
carriers will, and then how they'll kind of transition. But I anticipate that not settling for at least 2 years.
Okay.
That's kind of my thought. But again,
Did
I'm
you?
not the decision maker.
Yeah, me either. Um, where did you get a lot of your business back in those days? I mean, I have some friends that I went to college with that ended up going to work for insurance brokers that would sell like life insurance
Yeah.
or disability insurance or the mutual fund, very popular things to recruit young
Yeah.
kids out of college to
Yeah.
sell. We're talking about a different type of insurance completely, right? So.
Yeah.
What was your specialty in insurance? What did you sell the most of? And then where did you find most of your customers?
So it was a lot of referrals also.
Sure.
Specialty was personal lines.
Okay.
That would be kind of our specialty as what we've done, even though we do everything except for disability and health insurance.
Okay.
But we do commercial and work comp and all that stuff. But referrals is a big one because I think if you know and trust your broker, people want to know, like, is this a good guy? Is he going to
Yeah,
take care of me?
totally.
How long have you been with them? So referrals are huge. Another one is we always use X dates. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it basically tells you when someone's buying a new
Yeah.
house, um, when they bought it. It literally gives you all the information if they have a mortgage on it, and when they bought their house because that's more than likely when their policy is going to be renewing,
Yeah.
and when you need to do a
Oh, that's a good
review,
point.
do you have the right
Yeah.
coverage? So it's because that's really important, especially now as
Yeah.
these fires are happening. People are going, do I have the right coverage? Because most of the time, um, you get a little bit more. You have an extra 20%.
Mm-hmm.
But when price surges come in, you're going, oh, okay, well, now I actually don't have enough
Yeah.
to rebuild. So,
We use
doing
that
those
tool a little
reviews
differently. We hired a licensed real estate agent to work
yeah,
for us to help with some of our marketing and social
yeah.
media efforts. But we use it for the exact opposite. Is we want to know who's lived in their house for at least 15 to 20 years,
Oh, yeah.
and then we target those areas for like mailers
I
and stuff
love
like
that.
that for repairs and replacement.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
think that's great because they're going, oh, yeah, you're right. I probably should have someone come out and see
yeah,
so that I don't have a claim. That's a great idea, but it gives you all that information so
yes,
you could see, okay, yeah, this is someone, be a good time to review.
yeah,
Yeah, and most people for their home insurance at least, they they pay with their mortgage company.
correct.
So
We
they
we do,
pay
yeah,
one time for the whole year
yep,
and then the next time is when you actually start targeting them.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting business
I
right now,
know.
especially in California.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things I always liked about it is it's always changing,
Mm-hmm.
always keeps you on your toes. You're always busy, and there's something to do. So it is ever changing.
Who are some of the large ones that really stopped writing policies in general? State Farm, right?
Yeah,
And there was one other like
all
Allstate,
state. Yeah,
major ones that when Lauren and I started the company, we actually went to a couple of, they were either State Farm or Allstate specific brokers in Auburn and just
yeah,
walked in and introduced ourselves and said, hey, we understand that this is a hot button for homeowners right now. You're seeing a lot of folks be deemed uninsurable by
yeah,
you guys, and it was really interesting to get the feedback from them as like, hey, we're just the ones that have these relationships with our customers. We're being told by our parent company that this is out of our control and we're
yeah.
losing customers that we've had for
Mm-hmm.
decades.
I know.
And
It's
there's
so
nothing
sad.
that we personally as agents can do about it to
Yeah,
fix. That's
I know.
wild to
It's
think about.
really, really sad.
Yeah.
It's created so much disruption, but I do think the market will
It
stabilize back
has
out.
to.
It
Yeah.
really will. This is, and you know, I always say it's cyclical.
Mhm.
Insurance is. I mean, there are ups and downs for sure. But this one just feels the worst because we're right in the middle of it. But
Yeah.
I think it will kind of come
Well,
back out.
and things have never been as expensive as they are today.
Yeah.
Right. And inflation's at a pretty high level.
Yeah, and the last thing you want to pay for is insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't like that one to go up.
No, especially
But
especially
it's
on the
important to pay
commercial
for
end
it.
of our, like, you know, the work comp and the general liability and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's stuff that you have to have, but you close your eyes as you sign that check every month. It's,
Yeah.
it's a tough one.
They've
But,
got my back.
yeah, they do. Thankfully, we've never had to use them. So,
Yeah.
well, good.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for this.
Yeah.
This has
Thank
been a
you.
lot of fun.
It was fun.
Did you enjoy it?
I did.
Okay, cool.
I went outside my comfort zone.
You did. It didn't seem like you were that uncomfortable whatsoever. Like,
Oh, perfect.
did you feel okay about it?
I mean, my insides are going to explode. But...
Really? Oh, no way.
I'm just
I would have
kidding.
never guessed that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that was awesome. So thank you to Stacy. Thank you to Spark Studio HQ. Thank you to Sierra. Oh, gosh. Now I got to go in and edit this whole thing. Thank you to Stacy. Thank you for Spark Studio HQ. Of course, thank you to Sierra Hills Roofing. This is Willful Thinking. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.